Friday, we lost two giants of the American civil rights movement. Reverend Cordy Tyndall C.T. Vivian passed away at 95 years old, and Georgia Congressman John Lewis. He left us. He was 80. He had an insane battle with cancer, and, you know, he was on with us, I think back in 2018, where he shared his mission of life. Take a look.
I don't want to go back. I want to go forward. I want to continue to be part of an effort to make America one, where we lay down the burden of race, the burden of hate, and create one society, one people. My philosophy is very simple. When you see something that is not right, not fair, not just, you have a moral obligation to do something, to say something, to speak up and speak out.
So, Joy, as you see that, what do you think his legacy will be?
You know, as I'm watching it, I started to get like a little bit welled up at the fact that we all had the honor to sit next to this man. It's very rare that you have a human being of this caliber. Especially in my life, I mean, you know, for me to be sitting there with him, it was almost better than sitting with a president. Certainly not the one we have now. I'm talking about one from the past. You know, I mean, except for Obama, I didn't get that kind of verklempt feeling from anybody else. This guy, his entire life is devoted to racial equality, racial justice. He basically devoted his physical self. He was beaten up several times because of the fight. Yeah. I mean, it's just an incredible thing. And, you know, I'm happy that Mitch McConnell, you know, gave a tribute to him. But, you know, the voting rights bill, which is basically was John Lewis's main thing that he was interested in right now, and he's always devoted his whole life to voting, has been sitting on McConnell's desk for 225 days. So, you know, it's easy to tweet, I love the guy and he's wonderful. How about passing that bill, Mitch? That would do something for the legacy of John Lewis.
Right. And there's certainly a civil rights movement happening in the streets right now. Are you hopeful, Sonny, about where people are looking in order to make the country better?
Well, I am hopeful. You know, many people, when we started seeing the protests in response to the death of George Floyd and other unarmed black men at the hands of police, people thought that it was just a moment. And I remember speaking to my dad, who was, you know, part of the civil rights movement, who certainly was an activist, and my mom. They both said that they felt that it was a movement and not a moment. And I believe that to be true. I believe that we're seeing a movement again. And what better example of that kind of movement, that kind of nonviolent movement than someone like John Lewis. I do, though, agree with Joy that at this point, you know, the way that you can honor John Lewis's life and sacrifices is to pass the Voting Rights Act. I mean, we know that it passed in the House in 2019, and it has been sitting on Mitch McConnell's desk for well over, you know, almost a year. And I just can't believe that we are at a point in our society where voting is being attacked. Voter suppression is very much a real thing. We saw that in Georgia. We saw it all over the country, just in the primaries. And it's something that just needs to be corrected. John Lewis said that the best nonviolent tool in our democracy was voting. Then let's honor this man, let's honor his legacy, and let's get that Voting Rights Act passed.
Yes, and a lot of people are praising him right now. Some of them are the same ones who criticized him during his life. Do you think that you can do both, Megan? You can praise and criticize at the same time, or is it too soon?
I mean, I just have like a story to tell about Congressman Lewis. I'm going to preface this by saying the lens in which I view politics and great people is obviously shaped by where I come from. And it's a lot of people who watch the show seem to think I talk about my family too much, but I think in this instant it's appropriate. When I was 14 years old, I was visiting my dad in his office, and he specifically said that that day was the day that I was going to meet Congressman Lewis, and it was important to him that I heard this man's story and knew who he was. And he took me to his office with his staff and told me the story about his advocacy and obviously getting himself beat up in Selma and his work with Martin Luther King Jr. And I can remember when I was 14, not really ever seeing my dad deferential or in awe of anyone. And that was one of the first times I had ever seen him, and Congressman Lewis was wonderful. And it was one of those moments in my childhood that that has resonated with me for a very long time. Later on, they ended up having a political disagreement when my father ran for president, and it got very ugly. I have no interest in rehashing it right now. After he ran for president, they did put it to bed, and when my dad passed, John Lewis put out one of the more beautiful statements of anyone about his passing, and then in that clip that you saw when he came on the show, he spoke to me about my dad's passing. So I think in this moment, we can have our political differences, and I think what Joy and Sunny are bringing up about the Voting Rights Act, if you agree with it, it is a great way to honor him. But politics is messy. It's complicated, and we are on different sides. That's the very nature of it. But at the end of the day, we can come together as Americans and appreciate one of the great heroes and icons who has truly shaped history in a way that I agree with Joy. I can't really point to another figure who has done so. And it's a very sad day for America because I don't feel that we have the same kind of leadership up and coming right now on either sides. When I look at the new swath of members and people that are getting involved, it's just not the same. And I think America is less without Congressman Lewis today.
Yeah, it's a loss that for America, you know, a loss for his family and friends as well, but it's a loss for the country. You know, one of the things I hope they will do, aside from passing that bill, is I would like them to change the Edmund Pettus Bridge name. I would like in Selma. I would like it to be changed. I would like Congressman Lewis's name to be on there because, as you may or may not know, Edmund Pettus was a big proponent of slavery and the Ku Klux Klan, and he was a Confederate general. And I think if you want to sort of push for change, let's change the name of that bridge. And I know that there are people who say, oh, you always want to do this, but this, he was beaten on that bridge, and he went on to change America. I think that's the name you want on that bridge, to get rid of that stink of what this Edmund Pettus stood for. That's just my opinion. And yeah, Mitch, please, just pass the damn bill already, okay?